Welcome everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 2024 possible Republican primary. What this Republican primary could look like. Now, on the 2024 Wikipedia page, 2024 election. We have Ted Cruz, Matt Gaetz, Larry Hogan, Mike Pence, Francis Suarez, and there's also Trump there. You can't see him though. I didn't expand the screen recording, but Ted Cruz I did all of these, but I did not include Suarez and Donald Trump. I did not include Suarez because I actually added one more guy who isn't on here, and that is Ron DeSantis. I added Ron DeSantis, who's not on the publicly expressed interest ones. I added Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida, and Suarez is the mayor of Miami. So that would ultimately just blow out Suarez's campaign. He would not win anywhere else. That canceled out Suarez's campaign. If Trump was in it, it would be a Trump blowout. Maybe DeSantis wins some southern states, but it would just be a Trump blowout. So I did not include Donald Trump because that wouldn't be an exciting video. I also added Mitt Romney, who I do think would maybe win a couple states, at least his home state of Utah. I do think that he could, or I'm positive that he would make an impact on this election on this primary because he would make an impact on Mike Pence's campaign. So it is important to have Mitt Romney here, and some people, some Republicans, very few, but some do actually want Mitt Romney for president. We go down to these polls, polls. Mitt Romney is included in every poll. Look at this poll. Mitt Romney wins 9%. All right, that's pretty good for Mitt Romney, who, as we know, look, he wins 6%, 2%, 3%. But, of course, Mitt Romney, he voted to impeach Trump. He was a strong critic of Trump, even though he was a Republican. And that was pretty huge in this election, right? Or in the Trump presidency. He was seen as kind of like a traitor in a Mike Pence sense, of the Trump presidency. Oh my God, I hate YMAP so much. Going to home states, most of these home states, Matt Gaetz should not be on here. So the candidates we do have, just as a rundown, we have a senator from Texas, Ted Cruz, the governor of Maryland, and a somewhat Trump critic. Sometimes he criticized Trump. He's a very moderate Republican, Larry Hogan, and of course he won the governorship in Maryland, a solid Democratic state. Then we have Mitt Romney, the former governor of Massachusetts and senator from Utah, strong Trump critic. Mike Pence, former vice president, former senator from Indiana. Of course, Pence served in the Trump administration, seen as a traitor to his party and to the administration. And finally, Ron DeSantis. All right, so Ron DeSantis is the governor of Florida, and he's going to be one of the strongest candidates in this election. But yeah, Ron DeSantis is very popular right now. And yeah. Going to the home states, I think we can name all of these candidates' home states for themselves. Ted Cruz will win his home state of Texas. I do see Larry Hogan winning his home state of Maryland. I see Mitt Romney winning his home state of Utah. I see Mike Pence winning his home state of Indiana, and I see Ron DeSantis carrying his home state of Florida. We'll start in the South. Actually, this entire map is going to be very hard to color in. Now, African Americans, I don't think they're going to favor one strong candidate. Plus, there's not going to be many African American voters in this primary because, of course, not many African Americans are Republicans. We have to remember that. So the African American vote won't play a huge, dominance in this election, or in this primary, I'm sorry. But, I think the South, it's going to be very much between Cruz and DeSantis. I don't see Pence, Romney, or Hogan really connecting with these voters at all. I do see DeSantis and Cruz just because they both come from the South. I will give these more conservative states to Ron DeSantis, these more Trump states. Not North Carolina, we will leave that as a toss-up. Alabama, Mississippi, I see Tennessee going for him. I see Arkansas going for DeSantis, but I will have to give Louisiana to Ted Cruz. These border states that border Texas, they're more likely to go to Ted Cruz because of the name recognition. But, on these states on the East Coast, they're going to be very hard to categorize. I will give Ted Cruz North Carolina. I think these more, with more Democratic voters, I see these states going for him. Of course, Democratic voters aren't voting in this primary, but I do think that he would perform well in more liberal states. I will also I'll give Georgia and South Carolina to DeSantis, though I think this is how it would play out. DeSantis is pretty much going to dominate the South. He's just going to lose Louisiana and North Carolina. In Virginia, I see Virginia. I don't see DeSantis or Cruz with much of a shot. I think it's really going to be Logan. Larry Hogan, Mitt Romney, or Mike Pence here. But I'm going to have to give the state to Mike Pence. I think this would be Pence territory. It's going to be one of these three. This is more of a liberal state. There are more liberal Republicans in a state like Virginia, the more north we go. And it's going to be one of these three candidates, Hogan, Romney, or Pence. But Pence does have this name recognition. He is trusted by his party. And this isn't an area where they're going to see him as a traitor to their party. I see Pence winning Virginia. I see West Virginia as DeSantis territory. These are really Trump voters. This is an area where people really like Trump, and DeSantis is going to be seen as Trump's natural successor much more than Mike Pence, Mitt Romney, Larry Hogan, or Ted Cruz. Even though Mike Pence was his vice president, he's, unlike Kamala Harris, towards Joe Biden, he's not going to be seen as the natural successor. He just is not. So, I do see Virginia going to Mike Pence. I think a state like Kentucky is a state where Ted Cruz can do well. He is, just because, they're more rural states where I think Cruz will do better than DeSantis. I do think so. Not, a little more liberal than deep southern states. I don't know. I just think Cruz will win the state. Going over to Illinois, I see this as another Pence state. He has this name recognition, and again, this is a more liberal state where Pence will do well. Plus, it borders his home state of Illinois. That's mostly why I gave it to him. For the same reasons, I will give Ohio to Mike Pence, everything what I said for Illinois and Virginia for that matter. I think that I see Delaware as a Larry Hogan state. This is a state where Republicans don't like Trump that much. Those few Republicans, they're not diehard Trump fans. And plus, the fact that Larry Hogan comes right next door from Maryland, they know who Larry Hogan is. They know what he stands for. I could see many Republicans turning out for Larry Hogan, even though Larry Hogan, and they're not diehard Trump fans, as I said. So, Larry Hogan's opposition to Trump will not mean much in a state like Delaware, in the north, the more north we go. I see, and this might surprise some of you, but I think Mitt Romney is going to win Washington, D.C. I definitely think that a person serving in Washington, D.C. right now is going to win the district. That leaves it off to Ted Cruz and Mitt Romney, both senators. Mike Pence isn't even in office right now. DeSantis is a governor. Hogan is a governor. But, because Washington, D.C. residents, they see these people. They've heard of them. They go to the Capitol. They see sessions of Congress, right? So, but this is going to be this is filled with liberal Republicans, not liberal conservatives. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, liberal Republicans are in Washington, D.C. Of course, Washington, D.C. is so liberal. And I do see this going for Mitt Romney, especially saying that he is a senator and such a Trump critic, because Washington, D.C. was not a fan of Donald Trump, even Republicans. Look. Oops. Never mind. Don't look. Sorry. That was something else. I thought I had it, but I didn't. New Jersey. New Jersey is hard. I don't see this as Cruz or DeSantis territory, and I don't really see it as Pence territory. I see New Jersey going for Larry Hogan. Again, this is a liberal Republican state. I shouldn't say liberal Republican because there's almost none of those, but moderate Republican. And they're not diehard Trump fans, of course, like I said. I think this is a state that Larry Hogan will do well in. And mostly DeSantis, Pence, and Cruz, they're not going to really connect with these New Jersey voters. Pence comes from Indiana. DeSantis and Cruz come from the South, Texas and Florida. That's, all the way across the country. They're not really going to connect with these. Mike Pence might a little bit since he's the former vice president, but still not really, especially saying where he comes from. Connecticut, I have insight. I live in Connecticut, so this one's going to be hard. But I do have an insight to tell. I think I'm going to, and of course these are more moderate Republicans, but I see this as Larry Hogan territory, and I think that Larry Hogan will be pretty powerful in 2024. Maybe not enough to win, but I think more powerful than people expect. I think Larry Hogan will win the majority of these Republicans in a state like Connecticut. And that goes for Rhode Island too. I see Larry Hogan winning Rhode Island. And I see Mitt Romney, of course, winning the state of Massachusetts because he is the former governor of Massachusetts. And, people are going to choose him. No other candidate has ever served in Massachusetts. It's just the favorite son factor. It's just the favorite son aspect. People are going to vote for their former governor. And that's what the favorite son aspect is, generally. Moving up to Vermont, I definitely think that this is Larry Hogan territory. Very, very progressive. Larry Hogan is very progressive. Well, I shouldn't say very, but pretty progressive for a Republican, right? And this is a very progressive state. New Hampshire, I'm actually gonna put in the DeSantis category. Go to the 2016 presidential election. Hillary Clinton wins this by 0.6% in the general election, right? That just shows you how conservative New Hampshire is. New Hampshire is a very conservative state, judging off of the states around them. Pretty conservative. I think that Hogan, Romney, and Pence are going to be too liberal, too moderate for the state of New Hampshire. Maine, I'm not doing districts, so this is going to be as a whole. In Maine's first district, near the eastern seaboard, that's really going to dominate. We just look at it. They have 2 electoral votes. The rest has 1, and Maine at large has 2, which completely comes from, Maine's first or whatever it is. I don't know. But anyway, Maine, I see as Larry Hogan territory. Again, for these same reasons. This is a very progressive state. I see Larry Hogan doing very well in a state like this. New York, I will give to. This one's gonna be razor thin. These are moderate Republicans, pretty moderate, but I almost want to give it to Mitt Romney, but I really don't see any chance of it going to Mitt Romney. Oh, God. Geez, I'm sorry, guys. Skip this part if you want. But New York, I will give to Mike Pence. Just because of, people know who this guy is. People trust him, it's just, I don't know. like this city, New York City, people are gonna vote for Mike Pence, especially if you're not fond of DeSantis. Because DeSantis, I was debating whether or not the state would go to Hogan, Pence, or DeSantis. And I didn't give it to Hogan just because of the big population. He's not going to have enough turnout. Because, there's not going to be a bunch of Hogan supporters. But, DeSantis, this is a bit too moderate for DeSantis. DeSantis is very conservative, and people are going to remember his COVID policy when he forced schools not to make mask mandates, right? So I do see this as Pence territory. Moving on to the blue wall. Moving on to, Pennsylvania. This one will also be hard. This is really just a question of who will connect with blue collar workers the most, and who is? I see Larry Hogan, Mitt Romney, and Mike Pence connecting with blue collar workers the most. Remember, moderates are going to connect with blue collar workers, not conservatives. All right, not conservatives, because sure they're workers, sure they're families, but they really do meet in the middle. Blue collar workers, they could go either way. So yeah. I will give Michigan to Mike Pence just because he has this name recognition here, but mostly just because it comes from Indiana. And remember, this is a toss-up of the three. I will also give Wisconsin to Mike Pence because Mike Pence will have some rural appeal because he comes from Indiana. I think enough rural appeal to win him Wisconsin. Pennsylvania, I almost want to give to Mitt Romney. This is really hard, guys. I'm really sorry. I do not do these videos, beforehand. So it's always really just a toss-up. But I will give this to Larry Hogan because it comes right, Larry Hogan comes right next door from Maryland. They're going to share many of the same values, Larry Hogan and Pennsylvania voters. The people are going to know who he is, like in Delaware, like in New Jersey, I don't know. I think this will go to Pennsylvania. Or, I'm sorry, this will go to Larry Hogan, the state. Minnesota, I see as, this is conservatives are pretty moderate, I guess, here. Not necessarily very conservative. But, I see this as state like Mike Pence will win. I was going to give it to Mitt Romney. But it's just that, Pence and Romney meet right the same when it's on the scale of liberal to conservative. And not many people are going to vote for Mitt Romney over Mike Pence, right? So, because Mike Pence is the former vice president. And both are going to be seen as traitors to the Republican Party. Not as much in 2024, especially if Trump just keeps quiet and doesn't run and doesn't campaign for anyone. But yeah, again, who will vote for Mike Pence over Mitt Romney? Not many people. The Iowa caucus. The Iowa caucus is going to be hard because this is the first it's the first caucus, first primary, whatever you want to call it, in the primary season. So, who will have the most momentum in the beginning? And I did give New Hampshire to Ron DeSantis. And, of course, that's one of the first in the season. It's the second in the primary season as well. I see this as a Ted Cruz state. Sure, it went to Rick Santorum wait a second. Yeah, it went to Rick Santorum in the 2016 primary. But Cruz is going to have a lot of rural appeal. Ted Cruz will have more rural appeal than Mike Pence. And I think enough, especially in the beginning of the season, because I think Larry Hogan, over time, as he wins the primaries in the Northeast, will gain more momentum. But Cruz is going to have momentum right off the bat. He is well known, and he ran in the 2016 primary, and he won second behind Trump, and people really liked him. So, Iowa, saying that it's the first in the season, in the primary season, I think will be a Ted Cruz state. Missouri, I think, will go to Ron DeSantis just because it's in the South. People know who this guy is. It's a Trump state. It's a conservative state. And I think conservative enough to go to Ron DeSantis. Moving down to Hawaii, I see this as a Mitt Romney state. Just because it's very liberal. And Mitt Romney is I would say he or Larry Hogan is the most liberal candidate of these. Probably him. Maybe Hogan, though. Well, probably Hogan, actually, I would say. But Mitt Romney is more well-known. We have to remember he was the Republican nominee in 2012, lost to Obama. So people know who this guy is. Everyone knows who Mitt Romney is. Of both parties. I see Ted Cruz winning the state of Alaska. It's a very rural state that I think Ted Cruz would really appeal to. I'm sure it's very conservative and could go to Ron DeSantis, but Ted Cruz is also very conservative. He comes from Texas. He is conservative, while DeSantis comes from Florida, which is a swing state. Very liberal and conservative. New Mexico, I think this is an area that it's going to be a toss-up between Ted Cruz and Mitt Romney. But I do think that Ted Cruz will get Mitt Romney will get the edge in New Mexico, just because it's very liberal. Well, not completely liberal, obviously, but pretty liberal. Liberal. I see Republicans voting for Mitt Romney here. But Arizona is less liberal. They are pretty conservative for Republicans. And Ted Cruz coming from the South, I see Ted Cruz winning the state of Arizona. But Republicans pretty moderate in Nevada. I see, especially because of the fact that Mitt Romney comes right next door from Utah. I do see this as a Mitt Romney state. I see Colorado as a Romney state. Of course, it comes right next door to him, or from him. I would have given this Midwest to Ron DeSantis, but he's not going to have a bunch of rural appeal. Remember, Ted Cruz and Mike Pence, for that matter, they are going to have. They're going to have more rural appeal than. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I don't like using Y maps, but it's the only thing that I can use. Anyway, but yeah, as I was saying, DeSantis, he is conservative enough to win some of these states, but he doesn't have much of this rural appeal. But he does come from the Sun Belt, and Oklahoma is in the Sun Belt. I see Ron DeSantis carrying the state of Oklahoma, but Kansas is pretty liberal, and Mitt Romney will have very much appeal here. But I don't think enough to win in Kansas. I do think that this is a Mike Pence state, just because it's not liberal enough to go to Ted Cruz. And of course, Mike Pence has this name recognition, the former vice president. I think he would do well in a state like Kansas. Mike Pence isn't going to be very strong in this region. Sure, he has this appeal here, but these are very conservative regions. This Midwest, it's very conservative here. And Mike Pence, the other Republicans, or mostly just Cruz and DeSantis, they're not going to make him look good. All right, they're going to slam Hogan, Romney, and Pence, for that matter, for being traitors to the Republican Party. I don't see them winning here. This Midwest right here, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska. I don't see Hogan, Romney, or Pence winning here. Maybe Romney. We'll see. So who's going to have more appeal here? Cruz or DeSantis? I think Cruz will. Enough to win him. Wyoming, I think. Idaho, Montana. And I'll just give him all of them. Yeah, I could see Cruz carrying this entire region. Montana, Idaho, I gave all of them to him. So I was kind of silent there. But anyway, look at this map. This is a beautiful map. And it's very close. I don't want to leave it down to California. Well, I'll leave it down to California, I guess. But it looks like Mitt Romney is unfortunately out of the race. Maybe he actually does have a shot. Yeah, he actually does have a shot, Mitt Romney. Never mind. All right, kind of a very liberal region here on the East Coast, or I'm sorry, the West Coast. But these are Republicans, of course. So it's really going to be hard to tell. Starting in Washington, who do I think will win here? I think this will be. I'm thinking Hogan or Pence. But I see this going to Mike Pence. Of course, he has this recognition here. People know who he is. And it's liberal enough for him to win. However, Oregon is a bit more liberal. I think liberal enough, and they weren't big fans of Trump, even Republicans. I see this being a Larry Hogan state. So it really does come down to California. Mitt Romney is out of it. Larry Hogan is unfortunately out of it. Even though he can win California, has a good shot of winning California, it won't be enough. And so it's a race between Ron DeSantis, Mike Pence, and Ted Cruz. Mike Pence leads. Now, California could either go either way, but these cities are really going to dominate it. Mitt Romney does not have much of a shot here just because, he's going to win these rural regions that are pretty liberal, so, as you could tell. Plus, of course, Utah is not liberal at all, but he would, of course, win his home state. So I don't think Mitt Romney can win in California. We can rule him out. Mike Pence certainly has a shot, but, of course, just because of his recognition. But he's not going to perform well in cities at all. And I don't think he would do very well in California. I really don't see a Pence victory here. DeSantis, I could see a victory here. Larry Hogan, I see a victory here. Possible victory. And Ted Cruz, of course, I see a victory. But I will have to name this state for Ted Cruz. And that wins him it. Ted Cruz, he's going to be very appealing because I think it would, Northern California, where there's less cities, I think that would be split between Cruz and DeSantis. So that already gives him something. Southern California is very important because Cruz does have enough appeal in cities to win him votes in cities. All right, he can win many votes in cities. Plus, he has this recognition. Unlike, of course, much less than Larry Hogan, than Mitt Romney, or even Ron DeSantis. Maybe that's a stretch, but maybe Ted Cruz has more recognition than DeSantis. So, with the big amount of votes in cities, maybe he doesn't win the most in cities. Maybe Larry Hogan wins the most in cities, but this half of Northern California is really going to edge him out. I think it would be razor thin, but I think just narrowly Ted Cruz could pull out a victory, and that wins him the 2024 Republican primary. And that is just insane to me. I would never think that Ted Cruz was going to win this. I thought he would be very weak. But going to each state, I do think that this is how it would play out. And I do think that a Ted Cruz victory would be likely. So, Ted Cruz wins with 165 electoral votes. Of course, I'm using electoral votes. But electoral votes are based off the state's population, and delegates are based off the state's population. So this really would be the same, just, in larger amounts of votes. So Ted Cruz wins with 165 electoral votes. In second place is Mike Pence, former vice president, with 145 electoral votes. In third place is Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, whom I actually thought would win this by a landslide. Going into this, I thought Ron DeSantis would win by huge margins. But realizing that he wouldn't have much rural appeal in the Midwest, couldn't give him victory. Plus, in cities, he wouldn't be very strong. And he wins third place with 112 electoral votes. In fourth place, who I didn't think would do well at all, but he did, is Larry Hogan with 72 electoral votes. And finally, Mitt Romney, who I even thought would do worse than this, would win 44 electoral votes. I really thought that this was going to be a competition between Pence and DeSantis. Maybe Cruz could win some Midwestern states. I was not expecting this. So, Ted Cruz wins. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope to see you all for the next one. Bye.